You think getting rich feels like stepping out of a brand new luxury car. But today, you parked your 10-year-old scratched sedan right next to one. Have you ever wondered exactly when people start realizing you are quietly building wealth long before your bank account goes public? It does not start with a massive celebration or a sudden promotion. It starts with a silent, deliberate choice to look ordinary. There are 8 quiet moments when you actively choose to look poor while getting rich. And moment number 7 will completely change how you see everyone around you. Take this morning, for instance. Your coworker Mark just leased a brand new sports car, swinging the heavy silver key fob around his finger for everyone to notice. 3 years ago, standing next to a car like that would have made you feel painfully small, rushing to check your credit score. But you didn't feel small, and you didn't feel the need to defend yourself. You just smiled warmly, agreed with him, and walked away. Not because you could not afford the down payment. Not because you don't like nice things. But because you finally understood the brutal math of depreciation. That shiny new car loses 20% of its value the second rubber meets the road, chaining him to a heavy monthly payment. While he is paying interest to look wealthy to strangers, your old scratched car is silently funding an investment account that pays you to do nothing. You are watching him trade his future freedom for temporary attention, while you are secretly buying back your own time, one unspent dollar at a time. Yesterday, you were playing a game you could not win. Now you realize you have completely stepped off the board, and nobody even noticed yet. You do not need the flashy keychain. You do not need the admiring glances in the parking lot. You already won the only game that matters. True wealth is not about proving you have money. It is the absolute freedom of not having to. You think commanding respect in a corporate meeting room requires wearing a designer suit that costs more than your first car. But today you sit at the big table in a plain, unmarked navy sweater. No flashy logos, no heavy gold cuffs. 4 years ago, walking into a high-stakes room like this would have triggered a silent panic attack about looking cheap. Not because you lacked the skills, not because your work was bad, but because society trained you to fear looking ordinary. Then Mark walks in and sits directly across from you. He is wearing a designer belt buckle so large, it practically screams for validation. You think that heavy golden logo acts as an armor, but if you look closely, his eyes are constantly scanning the room, begging for approval. Hidden under the table, his phone screen briefly lights up. It is a harsh red warning text about a maxed-out credit card limit. This is the dangerous trap, known as the halo effect of fake wealth. It is a performance that eventually bankrupts the actor. People borrow money to buy credibility, completely forgetting that true authority cannot be financed at 20% interest. You let him finish his loud performance. And when you finally open your simple notebook to speak, something amazing happens. The entire room naturally goes silent to listen. Not because of what you are wearing, but because of the weight of your unbothered calm. You didn't need the heavy gold logo. You didn't need the massive credit card debt to buy your seat at the table. Because true respect is never worn. It is earned, and it is entirely invisible. That was moment number 2. But what happens when the very thing you used to celebrate suddenly starts feeling like a trap? A simple signature on a cheap piece of paper. That is exactly where the third quiet moment of wealth happens. When you landed that massive promotion last month, everyone naturally expected you to finally move out of your tiny apartment. Because the social script dictates that the exact moment your income goes up, your living space is supposed to inflate right along with it. This is the invisible trap of lifestyle inflation. It quietly convinces you that you suddenly deserve a much more expensive cage. You actually spent a few days browsing luxury real estate online, feeling that heavy pressure to prove to everyone that you had arrived. Not because the bank said no, but because you realized that upgrading your walls meant completely downgrading your actual freedom. So you did the one thing nobody at the office understands. You happily renewed the lease on your exact same modest apartment. Your coworkers gave you quietly sympathetic looks, naturally assuming the big promotion money must have somehow fallen through. They think you are stuck living like a broke student. They have no idea you are actively stockpiling an impenetrable fortress of cash. While they are lying awake at night stressing over massive monthly overheads, your financial shield allows you to sleep in absolute silence. Every single dollar you refuse to spend on a luxury mortgage is systematically buying back years of your future time. You think a massive home is the ultimate symbol of security. But debt makes any mansion feel exactly like a prison. A tiny apartment, a massive bank account. That combination feels infinitely larger than a giant estate with absolutely zero breathing room. That was the third quiet choice. But hiding your wealth in your housing is easy. Hiding it every single day at noon is harder. This is the fourth quiet choice. When the clock strikes noon, the whole office heads out for a $30 sushi lunch, and they invite you. You politely decline, pulling out your home-cooked meal. Suddenly, the silence in the break room feels incredibly heavy as everyone else leaves. 2 years ago, saying no would have filled you with burning embarrassment. You would have swiped your credit card just to feel included. You can hear them laughing down the hall, bonding over expensive meals they will complain about paying for later. You are sitting completely alone. They look at your lunchbox and quietly assume things are tight. They think you are counting pennies because you desperately have to. Remember that question from the beginning? When exactly do people notice you are getting rich? It is definitely not right now. But while they are chewing through their future wealth, you are chewing on a completely different kind of math. You aren't just saving $30. You are applying the 4% rule, calculating how much invested capital buys your permanent freedom. Every expensive lunch they buy pushes their retirement back by another day. Every lunch you pack quietly buys back a piece of your future. $30 a day, compounded over 10 years, isn't just a pile of cash. It is the absolute ability to walk away whenever you want. You look at the clock on the wall. They are spending money to escape the office for an hour. You are secretly buying the clock. Not because you hate sushi, not because you are cheap, but because your schedule is no longer going to be dictated by a boss. The isolation doesn't sting anymore. It actually feels like a quiet superpower, a secret financial fortress you are building, brick by brick. Because true wealth is not buying expensive food to impress coworkers. It is owning your own time. That was the fourth moment. But the fifth moment involves a completely different kind of pressure, one that comes directly from your inner circle. This is the fifth sign. The group chat lights up with a photo of an outrageously expensive restaurant bill, followed by a request to split it. 3 years ago, you would have silently transferred the money, absorbing a painful financial hit, just to maintain the illusion that you belonged. Your coworker Mark sends a selfie holding a glass of overpriced champagne, complaining about how much the dinner cost, but wearing it like a badge of honor. This is the dangerous trap of relative wealth. Society trains people to measure success strictly by what they are willing to burn publicly. They finance expensive meals and luxury trips on credit cards, desperate to prove to each other that they are not falling behind in life. But you simply type a polite decline. You don't make excuses and you don't apologize for your firm financial boundaries. The exact moment you hit send, you can practically hear the quiet judgments happening on the other side. They immediately assume you are struggling. They whisper that you must be painfully tight on cash, pitying your supposed lack of financial success. But you let them think exactly that. You actively allow them to believe you are the absolute poorest person in the room. Because while they are aggressively splitting a dinner bill to look rich, your investment portfolio just passively generated that exact same amount of money today. They are playing a hyper-competitive, exhausting game of status, completely unaware that you have quietly saved enough to buy the entire stadium. You realize that constantly trying to look wealthy is a full-time job with terrible hours and absolutely zero real pay. Meanwhile, Mark is quietly panicking behind his monitor, trying to figure out how to pay off that champagne before the crushing interest kicks in. You didn't just save a few $100s tonight by saying no. You systematically preserved your absolute, untouchable peace of mind. Because the ultimate flex isn't buying the table's attention. It is having the absolute power to comfortably walk away from it. This is the sixth moment. It is Friday night, and your social media feed is suddenly flooded with first-class boarding passes and luxury resorts. You see your coworker Mark checking into a 5-star oceanfront hotel. For a split second, you feel a sharp sting of missing out. 5 years ago, that exact feeling would have made you impulsively book a weekend getaway you absolutely could not afford, just to keep up. But today you just gently lock your phone and set it on the table. You are not playing the comparison game anymore, because you finally understand the exhausting reality of the hedonic treadmill. Society convinces people they need expensive escapes from their miserable routines. They buy bigger trips and louder experiences, but their baseline of happiness never actually changes. They just run faster and get more tired. Mark is sitting by a crystal-clear ocean right now, but his eyes are glued to his work email, dreading the upcoming Monday morning. He is spending thousands of borrowed dollars to briefly escape his life for 48 hours. You are building a life you never need to escape. Every luxury trip they finance locks them into working for another 5 years. You prefer to buy your actual years back. Your weekend consists of a quiet morning walk in a local park. It costs absolutely nothing, and it feels completely weightless. There is no itinerary to prove your worth. There are no expensive photos to edit and post for strangers to validate. You are silently hoarding the two most valuable assets on Earth: compounding capital and completely unbothered, untracked, free time. When do people notice you are getting rich? They don't. Because true wealth does not look like a vacation. It looks like permanent peace. You realize that buying back your Monday morning is infinitely more powerful than financing your Sunday afternoon. But the ultimate test of your quiet wealth isn't how you handle a peaceful weekend. It is how you handle a sudden, terrifying disaster. You think a major corporate restructuring brings everyone to their knees. But true wealth is measured by the silence in your head when everyone else is screaming. It is Monday morning, and an emergency email just announced an immediate 20% reduction in company staff. The office is in absolute chaos. 3 years ago, an email like that would have sent you to the bathroom to throw up, terrified of missing a single rent payment. But today, your heart rate does not even spike. You just calmly sip your coffee and continue typing, completely detached from the collective panic. Not because you are guaranteed to keep your job. Not because you don't care, but because you have secretly accumulated FU money. Meanwhile, your flashy coworker Mark is physically shaking. The confident facade is entirely gone, replaced by the sheer terror of absolute ruin. He is staring at his luxury car keys and designer watch, suddenly realizing they are not trophies. They are heavy iron chains. His massive mortgage, his premium car lease, and his expensive weekend getaways have left him with absolutely zero safety net. If he loses his corporate paycheck today, his entire fabricated kingdom of luxury will completely collapse in less than 30 days. You watch him, desperately pacing the hallway, suddenly willing to accept any terrible condition or pay cut just to survive another month. He has to beg to keep a job he complains about every single day, because he spent all his money trying to look like a boss. But your quiet choices built an invisible fortress. If they hand you a cardboard box today, you already know exactly what you will do. You will simply smile, pack up your plain, unbranded sweater, and take a long, peaceful 6-month vacation to figure out your exact next move. Because FU money isn't about being arrogant to your boss. It is the quiet, invisible power to firmly say no to desperation. That was the 7th moment. But what happens when someone actually forces you to reveal your hand, and the secret finally slips out? A quiet, desperate knock on your cubicle wall late in the afternoon. This is the 8th and final subtle sign. You expect him to brag about surviving the layoffs. But Mark stands there, completely stripped of his usual flashy arrogance. 5 years ago, you would have felt pressured to help, terrified of looking selfish or poor to a senior colleague. But today, you just listen with quiet empathy. The grand illusion of his lifestyle has completely shattered right in front of you. He fell hard into the trap of illiquid wealth. He looks like a millionaire on paper, but has absolutely zero true liquidity. Every single dollar he earns is already promised to a bank, leaving him suffocating under the heavy weight of his own image. True liquidity is the invisible oxygen of personal finance. Without it, even the most glamorous financial empires can suffocate overnight. He quietly admits he came to you because you live so cheaply, assuming you must have some emergency cash tucked away. In that exact moment, you can see the profound irony hit him. He finally realizes your plain sweater was a deliberate choice. You politely decline. Not out of malice, not because you cannot afford it, but because you refuse to fund someone else's ego. You watch him slowly walk away to face his reality, forever changed by the quiet truth he just discovered about you. You turn back to your desk feeling an overwhelming wave of absolute independence washing over your entire life. The ultimate luxury is not a brand name or a heavy gold watch. It is the permanent ability to safely say no. The storm in the office finally passes. You survive the panic without a single scratch, setting the stage for the ultimate reveal. A few weeks later, you are sitting in a sterile bank office to finalize some routine paperwork, wearing your usual plain navy sweater. The financial advisor glances at your simple clothes and standard account type, clearly making a quick assumption about your net worth. Years ago, sitting across from a banker made you sweat. You hated feeling like your entire worth was judged by a single low number. But today, you sit in absolute silence. You don't try to drop hints about your portfolio, and you don't demand any special treatment. The advisor types your name into their system. Suddenly, the clicking stops, and they freeze, staring at the screen in complete disbelief. They are staring at an investment balance that makes absolutely no sense for someone who drove up in a scratched 10-year-old car. They slowly look back up at you. In that single moment, their entire perception of who you are completely shatters and rearranges itself. This is the reality of absolute independence. It is the moment your hidden assets finally cross the threshold of permanent self-sustainment. Your compounding capital is now generating more income while you sleep than most people make working a stressful 50-hour week. Not because you demanded respect, not because you flashed a heavy gold watch, but because cold, hard numbers command undeniable authority. You politely decline the VIP upgrades. You just sign the routine paperwork with a soft smile, take your copy, and stand up. You leave the advisor sitting there in stunned silence, completely rethinking every assumption they ever made about what wealth actually looks like. As you walk back out into the sun, you realize why you never feel the need to show off your money. Because the greatest reward of getting rich isn't buying expensive things. It is buying the ultimate privilege of being completely underestimated. You are back exactly where this entire story started. The same company parking lot, the same 10-year-old scratched sedan. You pull out the exact same keys. But the way you feel holding them has completely and permanently changed. You look across the lot. Mark is leaning heavily against his leased sports car, looking entirely exhausted and trapped. He does not look like a winner anymore. He looks like a man carrying a massive, invisible weight on his shoulders. You realize that his shiny car is a cage, and your old, scratched sedan is the ultimate getaway vehicle. Remember the very first question? When exactly do people start realizing you are quietly getting rich? If you play the game of stealth wealth correctly, the beautiful answer is that they never will. You will quietly accumulate your capital, build your invisible fortress, and securely buy back every single hour of your future. You don't need them to clap for your success. You do not need the validation of a heavy designer logo. You just need the quiet, unshakable confidence of knowing you have the absolute permanent power to walk away. You start the engine. It doesn't roar like a leased sports car, but to you, it sounds exactly like freedom. Because you didn't actually choose to look poor. You simply chose to be permanently, undeniably free. The characters and stories in this video are fictional and created for illustrative purposes based on common financial situations, not real individuals. The content in this video is for entertainment and illustrative purposes about money psychology and is not investment or personal financial advice. Please do your own research or consult a professional.